Hi everyone, this is Dan, and this is Magik number 3, continuing our series on New Mutant origins of this very great character, Illyana Rasputin, Magik, as she's later known when she joins the New Mutants. Anyhow, so when we last left Illyana, her and Kitty Pryde attempted to assault Belasco's palace, and Kitty Pryde was easily defeated by Belasco and transformed into a monster. And Illyana was turned to the dark side. She's of course no match to Belasco, and we find out that Illyana has now become Belasco's apprentice. She's kind of turned to the dark side. She's lost her innocence. She is being corrupted little by little by Belasco's dark magics. And here we see her being trained by Belasco. She's working with this gremlin-looking little shit and learning new magics and other stuff. And we get sort of a tragic inner narration as she realizes little by little that she's becoming more and more evil. She's becoming more and more corrupted by Belasco and his training. And we also get a reminder very quickly within the first 2 pages of what happened to Kitty Pryde in the previous issue. She's now a monster. She's actually a true cat at this point. And she eats the little gremlin that she was transforming or messing with. And Belasco sort of chides her, right, because she's unable to really master a lot of the magic that he's trying to teach her. And you get a really interesting scene where Illyana is told to go back to her room, and Cat, now a monster, chases her into her room, right? She tries to run away from Cat, and she forgets that Cat's still a mutant, and she can still phase through. You have this this is really tragic right here. She runs to her bed, screaming at Cat to leave her alone. She even screams Belasco to save her, right? And then Cat stops at the front of her bed and starts saying Illyana, right? And it's really sad. At least when I remember reading it. And this also panel really is a bit of an emotional jerk right here, because you realize what's really happened here. This character has truly been in this universe. She's been defeated utterly and completely. She was defeated by Belasco when the X-Men first came into this universe. She was defeated again with Illyana, and now she's just no longer human. She's unable to, and whatever this is just the very last little specks of her humanity left. And Illyana just she breaks. She can't handle it because she remembers who Kitty Pryde is. She throws a pillow and screams at the monster to leave, and she even accidentally uses magic to send Kitty Pryde out of her room, right? So she kind of is in a tough situation. She starts to remember the magic that Storm had taught her in the first issue of this miniseries. She even calls forth the pentagram that they use for the magic. Very interesting. She says that at the primary point of the pentagram, Storm always faces it, whereas Belasco has his back to it. And she begins to practice some of the stuff that Storm had taught her. In particular, she wants to kind of get back away from, try to counteract the corruption that Belasco is putting on her, and tries to make an acorn, fails miserably. And, when she's lamenting to herself, Storm appears as an astral projection. And Storm talks to her, right, and tells her, hey, I'm going to come here and save the situation, right? I'm going to come here to rescue you. And Illyana kind of suggested, hey, we should use, some of the tomes that Belasco has in his library. There might be a spell in there where we can destroy him. And she said, I forbid it, right? She goes in, and there's a sadness in Storm's eye in the artwork and in the dialogue. And Illyana doesn't understand. She's kind of frustrated because, like, why is Storm stopping me? We could use these spells to destroy Belasco. And it gets shown later on why that's so. And while she's on her bed, here comes the great reveal of this issue, which is the first appearance of Illyana's mutant powers. So Magik, she has her spells and her armor and her sword, and that's usually what people recognize the character for. But the actual mutant power that Illyana has is the stepping discs. And what it is basically a teleportation mechanism. Different from Nightcrawler because it isn't instantaneous. She has to summon the disc and then jump through it. And also, what's really crazy about it is it will teleport her through space, but it'll also teleport her through time. So it can get a little funky sometimes, especially in these early issues when she's young. She doesn't really have very good control over the stepping disc. So it becomes a bit of an interesting plot device that Chris Claremont uses, which is Magik's ability to teleport through time and space, but her inability to control it. So this is very interesting. She gets freaked out by it, and then Belasco's kind of trying to come after her, knocking on the door, and she uses her power and teleports her bed out. And this is a really funny page because it acts in two ways. Number one, it explains her powers, right? She's teleported herself back to the catacombs that her and Kitty or Cat were walking through, both through space and time, and she gets hit by a car, and it's the New Mutants. And really, really smart editorial here because Louise Simonson basically says, hey, you want to learn more about these? Go grab New Mutants number 14. It's on sale right after this miniseries. So really cool. You get Sam, Bobby, Danny, and Rain, right, who run her over. And she's sort of like, what the hell was that? Okay. She gets on a stepping disc again, goes over to Belasco's library, and this is where Storm stops her, right? She uses her astral projection and her mutant powers to blow her away off the grimoire and blow her through time and space. And here you get to see why Storm has been trying to stop her. She's been teleported back into time to see what happened to Storm. Very interesting. Storm's got the 1980s haircut with the very suggestive fantasies costume right here. And Storm is basically defeating Belasco. She's overpowered him, and she murders Belasco in this past. And what happens is it's a trick. She has, and this goes back to, characters, right, what they are. Storm is not a murderer, and that is, very apparent, right, in the older comics. And in general, Jim Shooter era Marvel, right? They really try to, even though the characters are conflicted and they're human, they are not killers, right? For the most part, other than, Punisher or someone, right? These characters are real human beings that are trying to do the right thing. And by murdering Belasco, she has destroyed the remnants of the character that she was. And she becomes a demon or a monster just like Belasco. And Belasco has the last laugh because this was all part of his plan. The character, or the Belasco that she thought she murdered, really was just a sort of an illusion. And his plan was always to corrupt her to the point where she became a dark child, a demon, just like him, right? And Illyana gets warped back in time, back to Belasco's cat citadel, and Sim shows up and is like, hey, girl, boss has been looking for you. I'm about to drag you back. But this time around, she has both the magic that she learned from Belasco and the stepping disc that are her mutant powers. And she kind of easily dispatches Sim and realizes that Belasco's castle is kind of trashed. There's clouds and lightning bolts and wind and everything, and she knows what's going on. Storm is assaulting the citadel. She runs down to help her, and she finds Storm is being overpowered by Belasco. And Cat basically defeats her and rips her back open. And she goes to try to save Aurora. And this is where things get really, really sad, at least for Illyana's story here. She has to fight Cat. And she realizes now, she's an animal. And the narration is pretty interesting. Claremont calls back to issue number 2 when Kitty Pryde was teaching Illyana by attacking a saber-toothed tiger and killing it. And here you see, the same thing. Illyana has to jump on Cat's back, and there's a big struggle, and she breaks Cat's neck and kills her, right? And I love this last one, my best friend, right? And she realizes, the utter defeat that has been dealt to them, right? Aurora is dying in her arms, right? And Aurora, kind of comforts Illyana, tells her, "Hey, don't mourn for me. You did what you have to do. And you within you lies the key to victory. I'm done for, but I'm happy because I get to join the people I love. The X-Men, her friends, her family, right? But here's where Belasco steps in, and it's like, you think you're getting away, right? but you're not. And he shows off again the medallion, the bloodstones that Illyana is trying to fill. And Belasco, reveals his plan. He liked Aurora as an apprentice, but he realized when she broke away that he couldn't really use her the way he wanted to. So now he has a different plan. He's going to have Illyana, his new apprentice, sacrifice Aurora's soul to the Dark Ones and send her into damnation to summon the next Bloodstone. Very, very, so this is like the utter destruction of all the characters at this point. This story, so it is an alternate world, but it's pretty crazy, and it's pretty interesting if you think about it from a writer's perspective, in that Chris can't do this or Claremont can't do this with the regular X-Men series, but in this fantasy Dark Limbo world, he has literally killed every single X-Men. And yeah, man, you talk about like no fear in messing with your characters right here. This was Marvel in the 80s, man. They did some pretty amazing things. Anyhow, that's it for this issue. We got one more of the Magik miniseries. By the way, again, repeating, this is Uncanny X-Men Omnibus number 3. We got one more issue of Magik, and then I'm going to do one more issue of the New Mutants involving Magik. And that'll be it for this series. Again, sorry for the long video. The Magik miniseries is very, very thick, and it's really hard to hit all the points glancing over it. It's really, it's classic Claremont writing, but it's a little bit thick Claremont writing at that. Anyhow, if you liked the video, please hit the thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Hit the bell for notifications. If you got any comments on this issue of Magik, the miniseries, leave them down below, and I will see you next time.